Mobile Geek's coverage of MWC 2015 is powered by ASUS.
Hey, it's Miriam Joyer with Mobile Geeks here at Mobile World Congress 2015 at the Samsung event. And I've got a little comparison for you guys. Check it out. Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge versus iPhone 6 from Apple. Yes. So you're going to ask, which one's which? No, I'm just kidding. You can certainly see an influence on Samsung's design from Apple's design here, even with the curved edges. Because if you look, I'm just going to reposition it. If you look carefully, the overall shape is very similar. And the iPhone does not have a curved display at the edges, but it does have a very nice curved edge so that it's really easy to use. So there's obviously a lot of differences between these two phones. They're very similar in size. The iPhone's a little narrower, a little less tall. But other than that, it's night and day in terms of specs, right? But it's not all about specs, as we know. So let's compare them real quick. On the right, you have the GS6 Edge, and it's got a Quad HD 5.1-inch display, whereas the iPhone 6 has an HD display that's 4.7 inches. IPS technology versus a Super AMOLED, so very, very different here in terms of display specs. But they both look really gorgeous, as you can see. I mean, really, you wouldn't complain with either of these. So let's compare the specs real quick. Obviously, specs don't matter really too much in terms of user experience, but these are very different phones. I just compared the displays, but the innards are quite different too. The iPhone 6 has a custom processor from Apple. It's called the A8 with 1 gig of RAM and an 1800 or so milliamp hour battery. The Galaxy S6 Edge has a Exynos quad-core processor from Samsung, also in-house, and it has 3 gigs of RAM, which is pretty significant. And in terms of battery, it's about 2500 milliamp hour, so quite a bit of a difference. They're not very different in terms of thickness, though. Let me just put them on top of each other so you can have a look. The iPhone 6 is about 6.9 millimeters, and the Edge is 6.8 something millimeters. We're talking, you're splitting hairs here. It doesn't really matter so much. They're both super thin phones, there's no doubt about it. Then, of course, if you flip them over, let me see if I can do this. There are some differences, of course, in terms of camera specs, right? The iPhone has an 8 megapixel autofocus camera. On the iPhone 6, there's no optical image stabilization. You'll have to get the 6 Plus for that. And then on the GS6 Edge and the GS6 regular, you have a 16 megapixel autofocus camera with OIS. And then, of course, you don't have the heart rate sensor on the iPhone. But as you can see, they look more the same size from the back than from the front, which is really interesting. And they're both really lightweight, gorgeous devices, feel great in hand. It's just a different ecosystem, different platform, but ultimately I think you'll be served really well by either of these phones. So anyway, this is Miriam here at Mobile World Congress 2015 at the Samsung event with the Galaxy S6 Edge for Mobile Geeks. Cheers.